A very good evening to you and welcome to our program Business Today on ChannelEye, your weekly business show. And this is where we give you an in-depth look at today's business landscape. And we do have a personality in our studios with us. First, let's move on to the personality team. Business Today, it will be basically about banking, and we'll be touching on SDB Bank and more about online banking and the facilities available for everybody out there. And we'll be talking to a personality who is attached to SDB. So without any further ado, let's have a look at who our personality of the week is. Mr. Thilak, Piyadigama, Sanasa Development Bank's current chief executive, with a passion for innovation and technology, has been breaking traditional mindsets and leading a digital transformation. He started his career at John Keel's Holdings and has over 3 decades of banking experience in senior management roles in Singapore, UAE, UK and Sri Lanka with Standard Chartered Bank and Nations Trust Bank. The Ratapurama Lanka QR initiative was actively driven under the leadership of SDB Bank CEO Thilak Piyadigama, who was appointed as the chairman of the working group of financial institutions by CBSL to lead the implementation of the Lanka QR project island-wide. And we're certainly honored to have you here with us, Mr. Thilak Piyadigama, SDB Bank's chief executive. Welcome to our program Business Today.
Thank you for having me here.
And today we'll be talking more about SDB, and I'm sure everybody would want to know what exactly does this SDB stand for and what it does in the banking arena.
Well, I think to answer your question, SDB Bank has been around for about 24 years and we are celebrating our Silver Jubilee next year. So we had a very humble beginning. SDB Bank was started by the Sanasa cooperative movement as a bank to take care of needs of rural folks then. But of course, from there we have graduated to a now sizable bank. We have a balance sheet about 140 billion Sri Lankan rupees. So our main focus currently is on SMEs and MSMEs, and also we do a lot of work for women. We do a lot of work on the women empowerment side. And so we also have a retail sector, and also we work very close with the cooperatives. So generally that's our business model. Now over and above, I think about 2 years ago, we started digitalization for customers as well as our internal systems. Basically, get to provide better service to our customers as well as get internal efficiencies and so on. So basically, that is our bank to start with.
This certainly has a very long history, as you mentioned that we're reaching 25 years soon.
Yeah.
And as the chief executive of this bank, explain your role and how has it changed from the day you joined in?
Well, I think when I joined the bank, we have been around for about 21 years. And so again, I think our focus has been more of rural folks, non-urban areas and so on. So I think my biggest contribution was we accelerated our growth, particularly in the SME sector. Then we started a massive digitalization program for our customers as well as our internal customers who are my staff. So and also with that, obviously, when you bring new things, you need new skills and things. We started quite a interesting development programs and so on. And so we went on with that. Then we played a role in terms of improving our brand, SDB brand. We came up with new branch concept, to provide seamless service to our customers. So we are rolling out in the process of that now. And I think digitalization, I would say the most accomplishment other than the growth of the bank and so on, we recorded during last 2.5 years I have been there.
Right, and banking is not something new, and you've been attached to various other sectors which is in the same category.
Yeah.
So tell us about the difference you see at the SDB Bank.
Well, I think fundamental banking is same for every bank, right? I mean, fundamentally we collect deposits from depositors, and we keep a margin and lend to our customers. I think the difference is mostly the clientele you serve and the products what you have and the sophistication around those products, and that's how banks can differentiate themselves in terms of banking. So our current role, as I said, look, we are a very SME focused bank. So there's a reason for that. We believe Sri Lanka's economy can grow with the growth of SMEs, and currently it contributes to about 52% of GDP. And especially during difficult times, SME is the one who can develop economies, because so they are more of the heart of the economy. So obviously there's a business case as a result. So we want to focus there, and also that's how you can make a national contribution, because SMEs can be vulnerable, and also they need further development, they need financial assistance, maybe even education and so on. So that's what we do as a bank. So there's an opportunity as well.
Exactly. And you mentioned that SDB Bank is supporting the national economy because, as you mentioned, SMEs play a major role. So how can an individual contact, and then what are the kind of facilities you offer for people who are into all these SMEs and MSMEs?
Yeah, I think we have specific products for SMEs, MSMEs. Also, we do a lot of work on agri sector. For example, we do leasing of tractors and so on. I saw you were showing a picture earlier. So I think we can customize more to suit their needs, right? Broadly speaking. So we have solutions for most financial needs SME sector, MSME sector has. So we are in the business of providing financial solutions. Not only finance, we provide education as well.
Right. And what's the criteria like if somebody wants to get a loan, maybe? What do you look at mostly?
Well, I think since we are in SME, I mean, they are all, they have to produce something out of their businesses. So we critically look at whether that is a viable venture, and whether they can cope up with whatever they're trying to do. So we do, usual business assessment of the creditworthiness and so on, apart from the viability of the projects and so on. So those are the basic criteria. And obviously then other areas like, we had to have governance parts, like we had to know the customer, we say KYC, then we do due diligence and so on. So having done all that, I think we are in business with them then.
Well, although we can, say it in a nutshell within like a few seconds, I think the process is pretty long.
Well, I think it's not really. It depends on level of expertise you have in the organization, and we do pretty good job in terms of turnaround and so on.
Right.
So on. So on top of that, as I said, we also do a lot of work on the digital side, and we can onboard customers digitally. And also we can even move into soon unassisted digital onboarding, which central bank has given their blessings to do that. Previously it was not possible. They had to at least make one visit to the branch. So now we are moving away from those traditional practices and going fully digital as well.
And speaking of the current situation, it's kind of affecting all the sectors. So how has it affected the banking sector?
Well, I think it had a serious impact on the banking sector, because we were more like the lifeline to most businesses in Sri Lanka. So central bank announced back in 2020 a moratorium, credit moratorium. So we were part of that. So basically it was to help the businesses who got impacted. So we did that. For an example, at the time we provided about 24 billion worth of loans went under moratorium from our bank. So that was 25% of our loan book. Obviously it was challenging in times of both customers and the bank, but we took care of the customers, and we did our national duty, if I am to put it that way. But I think customers also have done well. I think they have understood, it has to work in partnership, so they have repaid loans. So now it has come to about 14 billion. So I think that is where we are. So that help was required, and there was a regulatory push as well. So we took care of the need of the hour then.
So looking at the current situation, Mr. Piyadigama, you mentioned that the customers have been very understanding, and then you had to provide moratoriums as it was instructed as well because of the given situation. But what is the kind of business or maybe startups you see as the most suitable during this period?
Well, I think if you're starting a business, right, I would say I will go back to SMEs, because you can start small business and things like that. In fact, you take for an example during pandemic time, so delivery service became something very useful. You don't need any sophisticated machinery or technology to start. You need simply a three-wheeler. So things like that, right? It can be considered as a startup. So that's one area. Then the technology platforms played a major role, because everyone got into online ordering and things like that. Be it your groceries, be it your pharmacy stuff and things like that. So I think online businesses played a role. Plus, obviously, when you do business, obviously you need payments as well. So that is where I think banks played a major role in terms of digital banking. So I think all these are, components, became very useful during the COVID outbreak.
And you also mentioned that you give a lot of priority for women.
Yep.
Through SDB Bank. So what are the priorities?
Well, I think if you take Sri Lanka as a nation, so we have 52% of population are women. Okay, then when you look at the labor force, in Sri Lanka's labor force is about 50%. There are about 16 million people who should work or could work, but only half of them work. So out of that population, only 30% are women. But it's a very small percentage. So 52% population of Sri Lanka coming to that level is actually, from a economics point of view, I think it's not very most desirable situation. So we had to bring women into the workforce, right? And so this is one thing we do very passionately. We empower women, by way of providing financial assistance, education, and so on, to set up businesses, right? And we have done a tremendous job in that area. Plus, not only that, if you look at my bank, I have 48% of my staff are women. That's quite substantial.
That's quite huge.
Yeah, and even my management, about 43% now senior managers are women. So we have been quite a interesting story from women empowerment point of view, and we are deeply committed to UN sustainable goals, and one is about gender equality. So we have played a major role. In fact, I'm very happy to say that recently we got a loan from DFC, which is part of the US government. So the agreement was 40% of that loan will be given to women for women enterprises. So to that extent, we go into so much work to ensure that women are taken care of in terms of businesses and so on.
And speaking of women and women getting into business and wanting to start up a company and become entrepreneurs, some of them prefer to stay at home and do online work, and maybe they would want to start up something, maybe a company online, or maybe a business online. So what's it like for ladies like that?
I would encourage them. Any business is a business, right? It could be a small business. I have met women who are doing business like cake making, dress making, and they do online sales, they do online deliveries and things like that. In fact, that is where our digital platforms can be very helpful. We facilitate payments because now there are delivery systems available in Sri Lanka. So similarly, you need payment systems as well. So we do that through Lanka QR, which you mentioned earlier, and that helps, I think, to take care of them, because unless you facilitate entire process, it's a pain to the supply, it's a pain to the purchaser. So I think by doing digital payments, I think we take care of, a lot of pains out of the system.
So let's say now there are ladies out there who are intending to do a startup and maybe finding a solution for the payment system. How can one register? And tell us more about Lanka QR project.
Okay, so Lanka QR was actually initiative of Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Back in 2018, they launched Lanka QR. So Lanka QR was actually meant to simplify payments and introduce a digital payment platform for masses. So if you look at the digital platforms, what is available in Sri Lanka, the other one is the cards, debit cards and credit cards. So they have been around for about 30 years in Sri Lanka, but penetration wise, debit cards has, I think, about 16 million in Sri Lanka. Credit cards is about 2 million. Now, to use credit cards, debit card, you need POS machines. But over a period of 30 years, we have built only about 90,000 POS machines so far in Sri Lanka, which is not a very huge number. And it has taken 30 years. And if you take even 90,000, it's not 90,000 merchants or selling points.
Overall, okay. 90,000.
Yeah, machines, right? So that means, every supermarket you have seen about 5 machines,
5 to 6 machines.
So you're talking about maybe 30, 40,000 merchants altogether. But whereas if you take the SMEs, you're talking about thousands of merchants. Even a person who sells Tambili or Kadala, they are merchants, right? So you have to have a mechanism for them to do digital, and that is where Lanka QR came in, and it was introduced for that. But up until 2020, nothing much happened, due to various reasons. Then Central Bank appointed a committee to, take care of implementation of Lanka QR, which I'm heading that committee. I'm thankful to Central Bank for giving me the opportunity. So we have got together with all the banks, finance companies, telcos, and came together, and we started promoting Lanka QR. Before the COVID outbreak, we used to go to a city every month, and sponsored by one of the participating organizations, and we promoted Lanka QR in the city. Like we did one in Kandy, Matara, Galle, Colombo. Then we were going to have monthly events in Jaffna and Kurunegala and so on. And obviously, because of current health situation, we can't do that. But having said that, apart from that, we also promote Lanka QR to merchants. So I'm happy to say that we have all got together and we have made a network of about 260,000 merchants across Sri Lanka. So that is where your question of ladies, they can be part of that, right? So they can sell their products through Lanka QR and get their payments made, right? And also the other feature is now our app is called UPay. So UPay has not only Lanka QR, it has also funds transfers. Like I buy something from you, I can transfer money from my account to your account, and my account and your account can be from any bank, any branch. That's not a problem. We can do the transfer.
Free.
Yep, and it's real-time payments. If I do it now, you get money then and there within few seconds.
That's interesting. And that's about UPay app. So tell us more about the digitization process at SDB. Apart from the app, what do you intend to do?
Okay. So when you talk about digitization, there are two aspects you have to look at. One is digitizing your customer operations, meaning a customer who came to the branch and said, look, I want to transfer money from my account to my daughter's account in another bank. So that's a very manual transaction. So what we do is through our apps, say take UPay for an example, you don't have to come to the bank, you don't have to come to the branch, you can do it from home. So it gives you access to your finance 24/7 and it's secure and it gives you convenience, and there's a certainty of the transaction. You can see transaction happen then and there. So we provided that service, right? So that's for customers. Similarly, we have internet banking solution for SMEs and cooperatives and so on. Then internally, we do a lot of work to digitize our processes, because I treat my internal staff as customers, so we have to take care of their convenience as well. For an example, we have a internal approval process. Banks are a bit bureaucratic. We have to sign everything because it requires approval and so on. So there's a manual process we used to have. Sometime when you complete the whole chain, it takes about 5 days, maybe 7 days. Now it just happens within say 1 or 2 minutes, because we sign everything digitally. In fact, I can sign while I'm talking to you if someone has made a request. It's available on mobile as well now.
Oh, so it's hassle-free, plus it's that fast. It's not time-consuming.
Yeah. So I give you 2 examples. So similarly, we have done tons of other things to achieve convenience for customers as well for our internal processes.
So you've also made a digitization process, as you mentioned, for customers when they walk into the bank as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's not just about online.
No, I mean, say if you come to the branch to open an account, so we can actually use digital device and onboard them. No paper forms and
it's going green as well at the same time.
It is. In fact, since you touched this subject, we are very keen on the ESG and that's environment, social governance. We are part of that. So everything what we do, we're trying to be more and more ESG compliant. Right, get rid of paper, reduce electricity bills, reduce carbon footprint and so on. In fact, at the moment we work from home, which cut down a lot of transportation and so on, so that we are contributing on our own to reduce carbon footprint.
So where do we stand in digitization in comparison to the global arena?
Well, I think I would say we are as good as any other country, and we got, world-class technologies here. And in fact, Sri Lanka has a mobile network with 31 million connections, which I would say world class. So we put our services now on digital phones, means on digital infrastructure that we have in the country, which is world class. So it's easy to sort of deliver digital services through these systems, and I think we are as good as any other country.
And when I log into your website, the first thing I see is SPO oversubscribed. Tell us more about this.
Okay, SPO stands for secondary public offering. It's same as an IPO. IPO is basically private companies going public. SPO is meant for public companies going public further. So we had a SPO a few weeks back. We are trying to collect 3.5 billion rupees to raise capital for our loan growth. So we successfully completed that with a oversubscription. So we are quite happy about that. That is what SPO is all about.
Tell us about the future. What does it look like for SDB Bank and plans?
Well, I think as I said, we want to play a major role in national development, economic growth, rural development, and so on. And that is where we have picked up, I think, specifically SME as a business opportunity. Yeah. So that is where we want to play. That is where we want to sort of conduct our business going forward as well.
And as someone who has been in this industry for over 3 decades in the banking industry, and you've been talking to maybe a lot of people who are into SMEs and MSMEs, so what would your advice to a budding entrepreneur be?
Well, I think what Sri Lanka needs is actually a growth in SMEs, because every SME will produce, you're talking production economy, right? Be it a product or a service. I think if you start doing that, we will start producing more and more. It will look like a smaller business, but you are part of a long value chain, global value chain. I think I would encourage anyone to start a business and contribute to the national economy.
And if I am to start an online business,
Yeah.
have I got any opportunity?
Yes, I think if you take any business today, there are few aspects you need to facilitate your business. I mean, you do your production part, whatever you do, say you do cake making. So if you want to get to your product to your end user, you need two things in place. One is a delivery system, and that delivery system also will have online ordering and so on, and you need a payment system. So Sri Lanka has both today. So that if you want to start a business now, you can start now.
Without any delay.
Yep.
And thank you so much, Mr. Thilak Piyadigama, for enlightening us on the digitization process and about what we need looking at the future for entrepreneurs to decide on the sector they have to maybe work on because of the given situation. But I hope that it's not going to be for long. But fingers crossed, and hope that we see a lot more growth in terms of loan facilities, and I hope everybody would be able to pay back as well.
I'm sure they will.
They will.
Yeah.
But well, we might open up very soon as well. So what do you think it would look like once this opens up?
Well, I think by the looks of it, COVID will stay for a while, for another year or two. I think only way you can combat this is you have to follow health guidelines, whatever is available now, and you have to get yourself vaccinated. So that's the only way you can rebuild your life also. I think with that, I think you should be able to combat this I mean those are the tools available for you. So you got to work with them. At the same time, you also have to run businesses. You also take care of yourself. So I think you have to continue to do what you did under new normal. You have no choice.
We got to adapt to the new normal and move on.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thilak Piyadigama, for being a part of the show. It was really nice talking to you. And with that, we have to conclude this week's segment of Business Today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
And that's about it on our Business Today segment this week. We had Mr. Thilak Piyadigama, SDB Bank's Chief Executive, joining us this evening. Have yourself a pleasant night. Thank you for